Thanks, Ceann Comhairle. Minister, the Pyrite remediation scheme is obviously up and running. That's very welcome. A number of units have been entirely remediated. A number of others are underway. I'm wondering what your thoughts are. Are you happy with the progress? Are you fully briefed on some of the issues that have emerged in the course of that remediation, which may require a change to the scheme? And are you looking at revisiting those who are eligible for the scheme, most particularly those who don't have a BCA rating of 2?
Minister. Thank you, Deputy. Can I say at the outset, first of all, I know that yourself and many other colleagues from all parties and none are actively engaged in assisting people that are under the Pyrite remediation scheme. And can I say to you that I have been very much briefed on it, and in fact I visited a number of sites where remediation now is getting underway, and it's progressing now at a rapid rate. And, so I expect to be reporting considerable progress over the coming months. Deputy, the Pyrite remediation scheme, which was first published, as you know, by the Pyrite Resolution Board in February of 2014, was developed having regard to the recommendations set out in the report of the Pyrite panel and the relevant provisions of the Pyrite Resolution Act of 2013. The full conditions for eligibility are set out in the scheme, which, as you know, is available on the Board's website. It is a condition of eligibility under the scheme that an application to the Board must be accompanied by a building condition assessment carried out by a competent person in accordance with IS 398-1-2013, reactive pyrite in subfloor hardcore material. The Pyrite remediation scheme is a scheme of last resort, and I must emphasise that, Deputy, which aims to repair homes with substantial damage due to the pyritic heave and is targeted to assist a restricted group of homeowners who have no other practical options to access redress. And Deputy, I know you've been active on this particular issue, as have many other colleagues of ours. And, I certainly don't want to see people left in the lurch. I have seen the distress that it has caused to many families. And, the first year of the scheme was, we were setting up the board, and as you know, the housing agency and the technical staff had to be put in place, and we ran a pilot scheme before Christmas. And we are happy to report now that substantial progress is being made, and many tenders now are being prepared so that they can be contracted out for further progress. But it is a scheme of last resort, and we are prioritising those that are worst, and that's the category 2. And it's my job to ensure that this scheme is run as efficiently as possible, to ensure that these homes and these people are assisted from the problems that they have been left with due to the legacy of poor standard regulation in the building industry. So for the moment, Deputy, the priority is category 2, and that's where the priority will remain for the moment.
I think obviously we are in a new phase of the scheme. There was inevitably going to be teething problems. I think the Board's target of having 600 houses completed by the end of next year, they're confident that they can do that, and I very much welcome that and hope it's the case. Just in terms of some of the issues that have emerged during the remediation works, in some areas where people have moved out, they have, because of structural problems that emerged in the course of the remediation of the infill, or other issues that were outside the control of the homeowners, the job took longer. Now, these people have had to go and enter 3-month leases in rented accommodation, move their post, be eligible for 2 water charges bills, for example, and the idea of the works being extended beyond for a couple of weeks actually throws that into total crisis because of the inability to extend it. People don't operate on that basis. Is the Board looking at that? It's not reasonable to expect the homeowners in that situation to bear the extra cost. Issues have emerged about the quality of the replacement products, that it's not up to standard with what some of the homeowners had in terms of flooring, house decoration and so on. I think that needs to be looked at. But particularly, Minister, the issue of the need to change the scheme away from purely damage-based. Once it gets up and running, we have to look at those who have pyrite with less damage, and I'll maybe make a point on that in the end.
Thank you, Ceann Comhairle. First of all, I want to acknowledge that the Deputy herself acknowledges the progress that is now being made, and I think it isn't before time, and it's something that I'm committed to ensuring we give it full focus and priority over the coming months. And, as I said, I expect substantial progress to be made now as more homes are remediated. The Deputy is quite right in saying one thing, that some issues are coming to light when the builders the remediation crews are moving onto site, where they are discovering further defects in terms of substandard building and construction works. Now, this is something that, we have to be very careful about first and foremost, because the Pyrite resolution scheme is essentially to deal with the Pyrite-related issues only. And I think as other substandard work arises, it is important that it's as highlighted as early as possible as it's discovered. And I think the remediation crews have a responsibility to ensure that no house is handed back in a dangerous or a substandard way. But having said that, I don't think, and it's not appropriate, that the costs of remediating other structural works that have nothing to do with Pyrite would fall back on the taxpayer. I think that would open all kinds of issues right around the country, not just in terms of Pyrite-related issues. So it is a scheme of last resort, Deputy. We are conscious other issues are arising, and we're working through the project managers with the homeowners to ensure that they are addressed as appropriate as possible.
I think we need to revisit the other structural issues that emerge with home bond, for example, and I don't know if the Minister has done any work, because you're quite correct, some of it is incredibly serious, and while the taxpayer under this scheme shouldn't be liable, I don't think the homeowner should either. Just in terms of the basis of the scheme and the idea that it's connected with damage, I know the board have said, sure, look, if your house isn't damaged, what's the problem? If you've got pyrite, it's going to get damaged. You can't build an extension, you can't sell it, you can't decorate it, you can't put in a new floor, and you can't move your house. So there needs to be a system that captures those people that have pyrite that may or may not develop further, and some way of alleviating the burden of testing on people, so that they could maybe get a green cert after a certain period of time if it isn't going to oxidise and damage further. They need to be able to show that, because unless it's either remediated or they get a green cert, those people cannot move on, and we are talking about tens of thousands of them, and I think it'll have to be looked at probably sooner rather than later.
Again, Count Cole, I want to reiterate the budget that has been provided and the priority is being given to those that are most affected, and they're the category 2. However, I am conscious of a lot of the issues, and I've met a lot of the householders that have concerns, and they don't know whether they have pyrite in their houses or not. Now, obviously, core testing is the only way that can be decided upon, and it is quite costly. I appreciate that, but I have to say that our funds are going into the remediation. But as I've said to the householders themselves, I don't want to leave anybody behind that have been affected by pyrite. The government have committed to addressing this, but it is a scheme of last resort, and I will work with those homeowners to see if we can find solutions. And as I've said to them, the more houses we get remediated, the closer we are getting to dealing with their particular issues. And I mean that. As I said, I don't want to leave anybody behind. You did mention home bond, and I think it's on the record, and I have no problem in saying it, that they certainly didn't cover themselves in glory in this whole issue. But if other structural defects are found and some are arising, I think it is open to the homeowners and the householders to pursue home bond or whatever insurance company or whatever builder was associated with that building. We cannot let that fall back on the taxpayer. It's separate completely to the Pyrite remediation scheme.